Since the start of Performance Hub by Leading Edge in 2018, we've run some events in amazing locations like Thomas Beckett's School, the head office of the British Olympic Association and Mila's Innovation Centre, as well as some great virtual events. And obviously that's become the format that's seen us through 2020 and enabled us to continue to connect and share great conversation and insight with almost 300 of you. And we hope to continue that, as well as a return to some of the live and face-to-face events in 2021. We thought to end this year, we'd give you a bit of a summary video of some of our favourite bits of 2020's events, all of which were recorded by the very nature of them being virtual. So we hope you enjoy the next few moments of clips and reminders of some of those great conversations.
A couple of reflections about this year's Performance Hub events. Really enjoyed the breadth of speakers and topics and also the delivery format. One that stood out for me was the paradox between performance and well-being. Really enjoyed the case studies from England Rugby and Green King. I think at the time we were all going through real challenges with lockdown, and the themes really resonated, and the discussions afterwards, I think everybody took something away that was new and novel and they could apply to their own environment.
The other thing we did as a company is we established our 3 key objectives for the foreseeable future. And again, remember, none of us, as you know, knew how long this would go on. And I think the 3 key objectives lend themselves very much to the paradox between performance and well-being. The first one was to ensure the financial stability and survival of the company. And actually that piece, survival, felt really, it's quite emotive. I mean, it's a strong word. But I think that left us under no illusions of this is serious. The second one was to come out stronger than the competition. And this was a nod to, we would continue with some of the strategic goals that we were setting. We continue to work on those. But this wasn't just about, subject to surviving. We wanted to be able to, we didn't want to lose the time in order to get ahead. And I think it was really key that one of the things that we kept on the agenda was leadership development, that we put in place, that we were going to do a lot of work around developing our leaders in the business. And quite often that would be the first one to be sidelined, but we didn't, we continued with it. And then the third one was to support the mental and financial well-being of our employees. And again, we've got 37,000 people who hospitality runs through your veins. You can't be in hospitality unless you love it. If you love it, you love it, and it's an addiction and you're in it forever. If you don't love it, it's just hard work. So we've got people who absolutely love it, who most people have kind of started out kind of sort of as I did, in terms of I'll do it until I decide what I want to do. And then, a number of years later, you find out that you still haven't figured that out, therefore it's right for you. And the other thing to remember, I think, with our employees is a lot of the general managers actually live on the properties. So this isn't just a job, this is a lifestyle. And again, to take into account that we'd kind of ripped the life away from them, and they were having to live in this shell of a pub.
The most memorable performance hub session this year for me has definitely been the one around wellbeing and performance that was run by Belinda and Robin. The reason it was so memorable is Belinda's insight into the journey that Green King have been on over the last 8 months, their milestones and also their key objectives, especially the third one being around supporting the mental and financial well-being of their people. From this great network, I've had the opportunity every 8 weeks to work with 2 great leaders, Chris Lodge from Carnival and Kirsty Lawrence from TUI. It's given time for them both to stop and reflect and actually learn from each other, because both have been and face in really similar challenges. The key focus each time we've been together is definitely around wellbeing and performance, and it's been an absolute privilege to spend that time with them. I'm glad to say that they found it really impactful.
Hi, Neil Marston from Chequy Land Rover here. The Performance Hub events from Leading Edge this year have been really, really good. Found them really, really useful. What was particularly memorable for me was the mixture of people from very different industries and sectors, and the mix of people with various sporting backgrounds, all with a story to tell. So it was quite memorable for me, breaking out into these virtual breakout rooms and having some really useful and helpful discussions, whether it be around resilience or leading teams remotely, but really with a focus on people and performance. With a group of people who were, like-minded and openly shared their experiences. So, thank you very much. Please keep it up, and hopefully we can do more together in 2021. Thank you.
So one of the things that really stood out for me in a year that we've all had to adapt was the Performance Hub conversation about adaptation between myself, Fletch, who's obviously got a huge experience within rugby and England rugby, and Sarah, who brings massive experience through her international hockey. And just for the three of us to be sat around, as we often do in the office or in a coffee shop, and just really throw around an idea. In this case, it was about adaptation and how sport can help business. And I took a lot from it, and I reflected how lucky I am to be able to spend time with the guys here at Leading Edge and to share some of those fantastic experiences. And I hope it was helpful for others too.
And that's interesting as well, Fletch. In your when do you adapt? Do you adapt when it's all going wrong? Do you adapt when you're on a losing streak? What's your view on when the best time to be adapting, to be more adaptable is?
Again, it depends. I mean, context is king within sport. So really having a good awareness around the whole contextual picture, score, conditions. Quite a bit of it will come down to feel. Come down to feel within the senior leadership team within on the pitch. What experiences have they had in the past? So a lot of it will depend on the context, but I do think feelers are the very, very best teams are able to adapt when they're doing really well. So there's a saying that, so the All Blacks are famously around when you're on top of your game, you change your game.
Wow.
Absolutely. I think in business, often it's very task orientated, whereas how are we growing the mindset and how are we growing ourselves, our characteristics as people? And actually often it is character that turns up and trumps those moments. So being adaptable is a characteristic that we can grow, as is how we talk to ourselves in terms of having an optimistic mindset. So what's in your toolbox that's going to allow you to actually turn one of those challenging moments where you need to be adapting into a successful moment, and have you got those? And it's not just about the task. And I think that's where, as leaders within business, we need to be much more purposeful in terms of how we plan.
The event that stood out for me was the Performance and Wellbeing event. I thought two really good examples of how performance and wellbeing had been actioned and understood. So one from Belinda Stewart at Green King, where there's a great working of how staff were first listened to, and then I think how things were actioned in terms of understanding the needs and wants of the staffing group, and then putting it into place with a short-term knock to profit, but a really long-term boost performance. And then Robin Eager from the RFU showing how a highly individualised approach, understanding for each person what support means and what challenge means, and then really planning how to action and bring those to life in everyone's programme, drove you a performance edge.
As Belinda said, like, that player as a person is probably the number one thing, and it's easily forgotten because we wear a badge on our chest and we represent a team, and and if we're not careful, we're very quickly going back into an outcome focus and judging ourselves by the results we would get at a weekend. However, in reality, win or lose, and when you win with a player, in reality, things should never be that good, and when you lose, things should never be that bad. You're that consistent for that young player, and your responsibility is to be that constant regardless, and making sure that we are really facilitating and supporting those guys having balance to their life and making sure that they're still progressing.
So Performance Hub highlight of the year for me was Lizzie Simmons, Resilience Through Adversity. She talked around how to prepare for the bumps in the road. Really loved the insights around how resilience is a skill that can be learned. Also how it's important for us to embrace failure, as that's the real key to unlocking resilience. And also that we can model what if scenarios to prepare ourselves to be resilient when the bumps do come our way. It was a great discussion. We had a resilience insights tool that we use to get everyone to really reflect, self-reflect on their own resilience, and had a lot of great takeaways.
Before I talk about some more of my kind of experiences in terms of results and things, I wanted to touch a little bit more on this notion of preparing for adversity. And I think sports people have a reputation for being highly adept at preparing for pressure and how to respond optimally when that dial is turned up to max. In fact, a lot of our training is spent intentionally trying to replicate both physically and mentally the conditions under which we'll have to perform, so that our actions under pressure are practiced and they're automated. And the second lesson was all about confidence, because I took a really big hit to my confidence not achieving that goal in London. And afterwards, I noticed a really distinct change in my body language and my mindset. I didn't feel so self-assured. And I realized a long time after that race, reflecting back, I realized that I'd been relying on that race to prove my self-worth.
In the Swanky World of 2020, I just wanted to say how much I've enjoyed the performance hubs this year. The invites have arrived at a very timely moment when I'm getting curious about a new subject. The speakers you brought have great insights and stories about a wide range of subjects that has really left me reflecting on how I can use these ideas into our organisations. The hubs have really let me develop my networking opportunities across a wide range of industries, and this will really be a helpful resource into next year. I look forward to what you bring us in 2021.